Hey everybody. This is my first video ever. I really didn't want to do this. um, but the Lord has been telling me to do this for quite some time, and obedience is better than sacrifice. I really don't feel well, so forgive me, I'm a little congested, but I felt the sense of urgency to do this video. I want to talk to you guys about this dream that I had. It was a couple of years ago, and I should have did it a long time ago. I mean, I've tried hard to dodge doing this video. I've even tried to give this dream to different leaders of the church for them to read it, and it didn't work. It didn't work out. I mean, and I was like, why? And the Lord was like, I didn't give that to them. I gave it to you. This is something that I wanted you to share with people. I want you to tell them that I am returning and this is your cross to bear. So with that being said, this dream I had a couple years ago, it was about the rapture. One of the most scariest dreams that I had in my life. And the Lord, He speaks to me a lot in dreams. And so every single dream that the Lord gives me, I write it down in a journal. And for some odd reason, this journal disappeared. But thank God for wisdom. I actually typed it out and saved it on my computer. So I'm able to have all of my dreams stored in different places. Well, this dream that I had a few years ago, and I'm looking down because I have it on a paper. I wrote it down. I had this dream a couple years ago where I was in this. I woke up and I was in this town. Well, I should say city, because there was like a lot of tall buildings and skyscrapers. It looked kind of like New York, but it wasn't New York, so I wasn't really sure where it was. But I'm looking around, and the sky was just this brown, murky color. There was no blue whatsoever, no blue skies. It was just like a brown, murky color, almost like muddy water. And I was like, what happened here? And so I'm looking around and I'm just kind of observing, seeing what's going on, seeing if I can find a person, because I didn't see any people. So I'm like trying to find at least one person. So I'm walking around. I don't know how long I was walking around, but I noticed that there were a lot of cars that were on fire, and there were some parked cars, and there were some cars that looked like they got into an accident. So I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my God, what happened to these cars? They're on fire. Some are still smoking. What the heck? So I'm looking around to see if I can see some people inside of those cars. I didn't see nobody in those cars. All I seen was clothes, and that was it. And I'm scrambling trying to find a person, because anytime you're by yourself and you're afraid, if you see another person, it's kind of that sense of security. Oh my God, there's another person. And so I'm just looking, couldn't find anybody. So as I'm walking, all of a sudden I hear some footsteps in the back of me. So I turn around really fast and I see this Hispanic man. I seen this lady. I'm assuming it was his wife. And I seen this little boy. This little boy had to be maybe like 11 or 12 years old. So me being the person that I am, I followed them, because it's like, hey, they must be running from something. I'm not gonna be caught slipping. I need to go where they're going, because they know more than what I know at this point. So I follow them, and they allowed me to follow them into this building. And well, it was a house, and the house, it had this basement, and the basement, it had a really, really tiny window. I mean, a window, it was like maybe, it was so small. It was small enough to where you can still see out of it, but if people are on the outside, they wouldn't notice it very much because it was so small. And so I ran in after them in this little basement with this little tiny window. And I asked the Hispanic guy, I'm like, what happened? What is going on here? And his response was, they said it's the rapture. And I said, the rapture? And he's like, yeah. He was like, they cut off the water supply. And I'm like, who cut off the water supply? He said, the secret society. They cut off the water supply. You can't buy or sell anything without having the mark. And I'm like, oh my God, I missed the rapture. I was just freaking out. I was freaking out. And the guy was like, you got to be quiet. You got to be quiet. And then while he's talking to me, he said, look out the window. And he pointed, he's like, look out the window. So I looked out the window and I seen these two guys, and they were fighting over a bottled water. And one guy had the bottled water and the other guy grabbed it from him, tried to grab it from him, and they were just like fighting. And then one guy took out a knife and he just stabbed the other dude in the stomach. And then the guy that got stabbed, he fell to the ground. I don't know if he died or not or whatever, but he fell to the ground. And the other guy took off with his water. And I'm just like, oh my God, I've never seen anybody get murdered before, and let alone for a bottle of water. And so I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, I told you they cut off the water supply. So y'all, they gonna cut off the water supply and people are gonna start killing each other for small things, water, stuff that you need to be able to survive. And this dream was so real. It was so real. And so the guy, he's like, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. They're coming. They're coming. He started, first he was talking, but then he started whispering. He's like, they're coming. Listen, listen. And then he told me again, look outside the window. So I looked outside the window, and then I heard these military marching, and they were all in unison. Toom, 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 toom. And then he said, look outside the window, but you got to be super quiet. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be quiet. So I'm looking out the window, and then all of a sudden from a distance, marching in the middle of the streets, I see these people, and what they had on, it was all black. And, you know, the SWAT mask, you know, when people there in the SWAT, they have like these clear masks. And they had on all black, and they had these shields. And you can't see their faces because the shields were like tinted, and they were marching in unison, like shoulder to shoulder. And then the guy on the right, he had this huge bullhorn, and he was like, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And he kept saying that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. There have been millions of people on the face of this earth that disappeared. And in order for us to be able to track you down, you need to get the mark. So they're like scaring people into getting the mark. And they kept marching, and then eventually they passed us. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was terrified. I was so terrified. And then the guy, he was like, we gotta go. And I'm like, again, like, oh my God, you know, I don't want to run anymore. I'm so scared. He's like, we gotta go. So we get out of this house, and then we end up kind of going where we were like backtracking where we were before. And I seen this lady looking for her husband, and I asked the Hispanic guy, I said, why is the sky so brown? And he said, well, the sky is so brown is because besides all of the car accidents, there's a lot of planes as well, and different explosives that had went off. And so you keep in mind that all of this stuff happened all around the world. So just imagine fires all around the world. I mean, it was so ugly. It was an ugly world. And so I asked the Lord when I woke up from that dream. When I woke up from that dream, I mean, I was sweating, I was shaking, and it was so horrible. I called my mom, I my husband, I was screaming. He was like, "What happened?" And I was just so panicked. And I told her what happened, and I didn't even really want to talk about it for like forever. I didn't want to talk about it, but it was so scary, to be able to be left. And so I asked the Lord. I said, "Lord," I said, "am I going to be left?" And the Lord said, "No, you're not going to be left, but if you don't tell people that I'm going to come, their blood is going to be on your hands. And I don't want you guys' blood to be on my hands, and so I'm going to say it." It took me way too long to get this video out, but I'm going to tell y'all, he is coming back. Like it or not, you can pretend in your world like everything's going to be okay, but everybody got a choice to make. Either you accept him or not. The choice is yours. Choose the Lord while you have time. There's no sin too great that the Lord can't forgive. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes. I say a lot of stuff that I shouldn't say. I don't always treat people the way I should treat people. I don't always do the right stuff. But the only difference between a Christian and a sinner is being saved by grace and just accepting the Lord Jesus as your personal Savior and turning away from those evil things. Just turning away from them. The Lord, he'll at least give you an A for effort if you try. Even if you try, he don't care what you did. Just try to live right, and he will honor that. I believe he will. He's a merciful God. And I also want to share with you as well about another dream. This dream is actually a little bit more recent. This dream I had, I even dated it. This dream was back May 17th of last year. And this dream, I was on top of a building, a really high building. And I'm looking down and I see a multitude of people. And these people, they were looking up at the sky. I didn't look up at the sky at the moment, but they were looking up at the sky. And they were just pointing up like in amazement. So I look up at the sky and I see this huge red dragon. I mean, this dragon was big. It was bigger than like a United Airlines plane or whatever you want to call it. It was huge. And I gotta hold to show you really quick. So this dragon, he was like making all these like weird designs. Like his tail had like this red smoke coming from it, and he was making all these like beautiful designs in the sky. And people were in amazement of him, and they were like, "Oh my God, isn't he wonderful? Isn't he beautiful?" And they were like saying, like praising this thing. And I'm looking at them like, "Fool, this is the devil. Like, why are you guys praising him?" And so I was trying to yell down to the people saying, "Why are you guys praising him? Why are you guys praising him? This is the devil." And so I think I probably was like 40 stories up. So this was a huge building, 40 stories up. So I find my way somehow down to the multitude of people to let them know, "Hey, Why are you guys serving the Lord? Why are you guys serving the devil? You guys need to be serving the Lord. And one guy in particular, I grabbed him